Hello, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees regular meeting is now called to order at 4:30 p.m. We welcome members of the public. Instructions on making public comment are posted in item 1 on the agenda. We will ask at each action item if there is public comment. Armando, can you please do roll call?
Trustee Dizon.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Here. Here.
Yagers.
Present.
Here.
Here. Thank you. Student trustee Dizon, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather today, it is important to acknowledge that Napa Valley College and the surrounding Napa Valley sit on the unceded traditional, ancestral, and contemporary homelands of the Miwok, Patwin, who are comprised of 3 federally recognized tribes, the Kashiel-Dehi Band of Winton Indians of the Calusa Indian Community, the Quetzal-Dehi Band of Winton Indians, and the Ocha-Dehi Winton Nation, and Wapo, including the Mishawa-Wapo, also known as the Onosatis peoples. As part of Napa Valley College's mission of transforming lives through excellent educational and professional opportunities that are student-centered, equity-focused, and community-oriented, and in accordance with the college's values of accountability, integrity, inclusion, respect, social justice, and sustainability, we make this acknowledgement. We also affirm that this acknowledgement is insufficient. It does not undo the harm that has been and continues to be perpetrated against Indigenous people, the land, and water. May we hold steady in our commitment to be in solidarity and in action to seek equity and justice with the Miwok, Patwin, and Wapo peoples. Action item 2.4, adoption of agenda. I want to request that item 15.1, President and Cabinet reports, be moved to item 2.5. And I'd also like to ask that we postpone item 13.1 to the November 20th, 2025 meeting. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Thanks, Trustee DeLuna. You have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Trustee Rios. Seconded. If there are no other objections, the agenda is adopted as amended. Reports 2.5, President and Cabinet. Dr. Powell?
Thank you. Thank you, President. Trustees, all of our VP reports posted in board docs, and so we will forego their oral reports for tonight, and I'll be giving the President's area reports. So I'm honored to present tonight's President's area report with encouraging news. Following today's mediation with the SEIU bargaining unit, we have reached a tentative agreement pending ratification. SEIU has called off the strike activities planned for Monday. We are grateful to the classified representatives who came to the table with the spirit of collaboration, and I extend sincere appreciation to our district bargaining team for the dedication and service. This agreement is a testament to the shared commitment of both classified professionals and district representatives. By working together in solidarity, we continue to move forward as one team, united in our mission to transform lives through the power of education at Napa Valley College. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Powell. We'll now move on to constituent group reports. Associated students, Gabe?
Hello, filling in for Natalie Lonitz for today. I'm Gabriel Moran, the Vice President. I'll begin my report. The NVC Board came to a vote to stand in solidarity with both classified and faculty unions, reaffirming our commitment to collaboration and shared advocacy across all groups that support student success. For my next piece, we recently had a Rotary Sunrise Club presentation, which went successful. We got to speak about the values that ASNVC holds and how they can support it. We announced Click and Pledge of Natali Lona's 3-day marathon run that he's going to be doing this weekend. So we're going to get some support for him as well. That's a lot of miles to run for one person. And then in addition, we'll be working with the Rotary Club to deliver books to third grade schools here in the Napa Valley. For my next piece, ASMVC has been working really hard to participate and host a lot of events here in Napa Valley College. For instance, one of them is going to be the ribbon cutting, and now there's the career fair, Constitution Day, and so on, and we're going to have more to come. Our next event's going to be the Boo Bash held at the River Trail Village on October 23rd. It's going to be one of the events that's going to be open to the greater community, and we hope everyone to bring their families and just enjoy the day in a safe environment. And that makes the end of my report.
Thank you. Do we have a classified Senate report? It says here no report. No. Okay, classified association, Kira. Great.
Hi, good evening. My name is Amanda Frost. The classified bargaining unit has a statement. We were hoping that we would be the first to notify our constituents, our members, but we just got out of bargaining like 20 minutes ago. I'm going to go ahead and read the statement. It's very similar to Dr. Powell's. As members of the campus community may know, the union and the district were engaged in mediation all day today. The parties were able to reach a potential tentative agreement, which we will present to our union members for their consideration and ratification. To that end, we are canceling Monday's planned strike activities in order to allow our membership time to vote on the proposal.
Thank you, Amanda. Administrative confidential, Christine.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I submitted my report to Armando ahead of time in anticipation of not being here to do an outreach event later tonight at Napa High. So I'm going to yield the rest of my time to my colleagues on the day.
Thank you. Academic Senate, Matt.
Hey folks, it's been a while since I've been here. It's nice to see you all again. Since I had missed the last few meetings, I've got a few more updates than typical. So I want to start by saying over the September and October meetings, the Academic Senate took the following actions. So we had an update to the curriculum handbook, the guidelines and procedures for how curriculum proceeds through that committee. We approved curricular updates for approximately 70 courses and 26 programs. You may see that packet on this agenda. It's over 30 pages long, so enjoy. We endorsed 3 faculty appointments to the regional professional development networks through the Chancellor's office. We endorsed a course caps adjustment process to move to mutual agreement. There's been a legacy here in terms of how we adjust course caps, and that has been a contentious issue, so we're happy to see some agreement on this. We endorsed 5 full-time faculty positions for hiring, and we're hoping that will be carried forward, but we are aware of the hiring freeze that we are operating within. We also elected our next Academic Senate president, who will begin her term this spring 2026. That's Naomi Chianese. So I believe she may be in this room. So, we're very excited to have her step into that role. Thank you, Naomi. The Academic Senate is currently piloting a representative Senate structure. I spoke about this in the spring. Area representatives from our various programs and divisions now gather input from their divisions or program faculty. So the goal now is to vote as a constituent representative rather than doing a more individual approach. My goal with this pilot was to really increase and strengthen communication about Senate actions so that we are gathering input and increasing dialogue across our departments and divisions rather than voting as individuals. This is a new process. We've already identified some areas of improvement and for adjustment, but I'm optimistic about what I see occurring. I feel that there is more discussion of Senate items within divisions or cross departments, so I'm happy to see that increased dialogue. But we are going to assess the effectiveness of this pilot in the spring and then decide whether we want to ratify that structure or whether we want to default back to our old structure. which was a Senate of the whole, in which most individuals were voting as individuals. In light of today's reports, I do want to extend my personal appreciation to our executive leadership, our faculty senators, and to the faculty at large for their continued dedication to our students. I do want to highlight the work of our various academic Senate committees. So our Professional Learning Committee is currently developing our Flex Day offerings for the spring. They've identified a focus on Title II. You may be familiar that there's legislative updates. One of the big mandates is that as of April, we're going to have to be providing a fully accessible materials and delivery to our students and our community. I have some concerns about our progress in those areas, so I'm happy to see this focus from that committee. Our Student Success Standards Committee is in the process of conducting a policy review of Chapter 5. That is a new regular process for us where we are going chapter by chapter. That is one of our largest chapters, so I'm happy to see that work undertaken. In addition to that, they're also actively analyzing student learning outcomes data. We're reviewing our services within the library and how we can better serve our students. And we're discussing best practices for supporting students in terms of pedagogy and success. In our curriculum committee, we are in the midst of advancing phase 2 of common course numbering. So that's changing the titles of many of our courses. I've personally had to get used to saying English 1000 as opposed to 120 or English 1001. So that's a big change for me. But we're doing that in transition. So we still have some odd course numberings here and there. In addition to that, they are actively archiving outdated or unused courses. They're also ensuring our curriculum is in compliance with new legislative updates. It is a tremendous volume of work that the curriculum committee is doing, so I'm very appreciative of the members serving there. Our faculty evaluation committee recently implemented updates to the contract and tenure evaluation process. Those updates had not occurred within 4 or 5 years, so I'm happy to see progress on that. They're also now working on our part-time hiring procedures and making sure that those are actively representative of the work that we actually do. The Distance Education and Technology Committee is supporting faculty in distance education and pedagogy. They're also actively discussing preparation for Title II in terms of accessibility requirements. They're also contributing to dialogue around the Technology Master Plan. So in addition to these Senate committees, I do want to acknowledge that we also have our faculty serving on our district committees, including planning, budget, technology, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so while these committees are more standardized across institutions, our faculty actively contribute to them with a strong focus on advancing student success. So collectively, in all of these areas, the work often extends well beyond what is our contractually obligated duties. We have a certain amount of hours that we are expected to serve in these committees and the scope of work. I know that that work goes well beyond those expectations. We are often bringing these things home. It requires collaboration and seeking input across faculty from our divisions and areas, collaborating with our administrative and classified members, and making sure that we are advancing something that reflects what we currently do and meeting the legislative updates and mandates of what we need to do. I am truly grateful for the work of all those members. I think any success that we experience within the Academic Senate is on the behest and the work of these faculty. And so I want to acknowledge the work that they've contributed over the past 2.5 years. That being said, I'm always concerned for the increasing demands of this work. At my Flex speeches, I often highlight that there is a higher expectation for faculty in our current age. We've gone through a number of legislative changes. For my area personally, AB 705, 1705, updates to Title IX, to Title V, to Title II, is really changing the work that we do. And so I appreciate our faculty for rising to those expectations. I hope that the district will continue to support faculty in all of those areas. But I am worried for the toll it takes on faculty. It is increasingly difficult to find faculty to step into these leadership roles. I'm very thankful that we have successfully transitioned and identified the next Academic Senate president. There's always a question of, will anyone step into this occasion? So I am very grateful to Naomi and the others who hopefully do that work. But I always have concerns for the future moving forward. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Faculty Association, John.
Thank you. Okay. This one on? Yeah. Hi, everybody. So first of all, as always, I want to extend my thanks to the board for their service, to the college, and to the community it serves. I really appreciate everyone and all you do for our college. I'm gonna kind of like do the, I usually prepare much like Matt does for these kind of reports, but today obviously was kind of one of the more whiplashy type days that I've ever had in my life. And so I threw out my report 4 different times and, only just rewrote it like while I was sitting here. I promise, Matt, I was listening to you. All right, so anyway, the first thing I want to say is an obvious, real congratulations to our classified colleagues. I know it's been really hard for you guys. It's been a long road, and we were so happy to be able to like be in solidarity with you. And we know that it's really hard for you guys right now. And it's a relief that you guys are in the position that you are. I know you have to give it to your members and allow them to consider it, but it's a big deal. And I just want you to know that we were very excited to be at your side on Monday and Tuesday. So sorry, I didn't think I was gonna be emotional. Obviously we never want to strike, and it was a really difficult decision for our unit to come to that decision. But honestly, it was a no-brainer for everyone involved because of the obligation that we have for solidarity. It was really important to us that we stand with our classified colleagues, and we're relieved that they don't have to do that now. But I just got out. I mean, I had a meeting today with our union members, and it was a difficult meeting. We had a lot of hard conversations about what's coming up and what was at that time going to happen on Monday and Tuesday. And I wanted recognize the passion and the engagement and the preparedness that was in that room. It was eye-opening to me. Everybody was ready, and then we wanted to stand so powerfully with our colleagues. So that said, there are 2 constituent unions on this campus, and I do want to express our desire and our really important hope that we can come to a similar agreement or find a way forward with the districts. We are prepared for anything that comes in the future, as I say at the end of every report that I have. And I want to acknowledge that I was so happy and I was so filled up by all of that passion that I felt today in our members meeting. And I hope and I know that will continue as we continue this process in negotiations. I want to pause on that idea of hope a little bit and say that, we come to work every day and we strive to give students hope. We teach them, obviously, but we give them hope for their future, for their path to success, for their ideas about their career, and for their academic success. And that is a huge part of what motivates us and what activates us as educators. And I was thinking more about it, and I feel like our negotiations at this point are kind of about hope. We're very close, but we're kind of arguing over this concept of hope in a sense. And, hope that we get to increase our compensation in the future to meet our expectation of the value that we hold to NVC. Hope to someday meet the increasing demands of the cost of living of Napa County. Hope to continue to be appreciated as an integral part of NVC and its overall success. But really just hope that, to me, like Dr. Powell mentioned, that we're going to move forward as one college, and I agree with that. And we hope that we get included as an integral part of that, and we always are appreciated as an integral part of that. And that's really, the sticking points in our conversations with the district at this point. We feel like we need that hope, and it can come in a lot of ways. And most notably, obviously, as our priority, I mean, it can come at the table with us. And we're ready to go into that future with Dr. Powell and the entire board. But we need that hope. And I really appreciate the opportunity to say that. thank you as always for this opportunity, and the faculty's position is and always will be that we are unified in our rights as NVC faculty, ready for the challenges of the future, thankful for the lessons of the past, and passionately dedicated to the success of our students. Means guys so much.
Thank you. We are now going to move into public comment on closed session items. At this time, the board will devote a total of up to 15 minutes to hear comments regarding closed session agenda items. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Is there a public comment? Okay. At this time, the board will move into closed session covering conference with labor negotiators, public employee performance evaluation, and conference with legal counsel. And we will return at 5:45. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Now.
All right, we are back from public session. There was no reportable action. We are now at public comment general. This public comment opportunity is governed by the California Brown Act. The board is not able to engage in any level of conversation or discussion, but we look forward to this opportunity to gather community input. At this time, the board will devote up to 15 minutes to review comments to the Board of Trustees regarding any subject not appearing as an agenda item for this meeting, but over which the board has jurisdiction. Each comment shall last no longer than 3 minutes. Armando, is there any public comment? Thank you very much. Action item 8.1, approval of consent calendar. Is there public comment? May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Trustee Baker made a motion. Trustee Iverson seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Action item 9.1, approval of real property ad hoc committee members. Is there public comment? May I have a motion? Trustee Iverson made a motion.
Second. I'm sorry.
Trustee
I'm on
Dooley
it. I can
seconded.
vote.
Trustee Baker is seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. Information 9.2, Student Equity Plan 2025 to 2028, first reading. Dr. Moonsamy.
Good evening, everyone. Board of Trustees, Dr. Powell, members of Cabinet. Very happy to be with you this evening. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to provide you with information about our student equity plan. Perfect.
Pass it off for us.
So, in the interest of time. Okay.
For the group.
Great, thank you. So in the interest of time, I'm going to provide an overview of key components of the 2025 through 2028 Student Equity Plan. Next slide, please. So every time that we're preparing the Student Equity Plan, we get guidance from the Chancellor's Office on what they're looking for in the Student Equity Plan. So these are some of the guidelines from the Chancellor's Office. Like the last Student Equity Plan, which was the 2022 through 2025 Student Equity Plan, our guidance is to continue to be race conscious in the development of the Student Equity Plan. The last one, that was the first year there was really a shift from a race neutral to a race conscious Student Equity Plan. So that race conscious, race conscious framework is continuing into the Student Equity Plan. like the last student equity plan, we're asked to think about 6 student success metrics, and those remain the same from the last student equity plan. Successful enrollment, completed transfer level math and English, persistence from first primary term to secondary term, completion of the student's educational goals, and transfer to a 4-year university. Now, in addition to those 5 metrics that were the same 5 metrics from the last several student equity plans, there's also new attention to how colleges are to think about equity. And so we are asked to include strategies to eliminate disproportionate impact, but also to fully close equity gaps. So that's also something new, the fully closing equity gaps. That's a new request from the Chancellor's office, that we pay attention to those kinds of data. Next slide, please.
Dr. Munsami, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but just because you're on the first slide and I wanted to understand this just a little. So
Yes.
is the regulatory background on this plan, is that coming out of the Chancellor's office through, and then there's state legislation guiding this piece, and they're directing the Chancellor's office to provide kind of those details? It's kind of a nerdy, just kind of understanding the origin of the guidelines. And
so the student equity plan operationalizes what we're supposed to be doing with student equity and achievement funds, and also thinking more expansively about equity initiatives. And so, you know, the legislature is they have input into what our guidance is in terms of how we're spending student equity and achievement funding. And so the student equity plan is very much connected to that. It's just the strategic plan that, you know, informs the spending of those funds. So to that extent, I would say that the legislation is involved in the guidelines that are presented to the Chancellor's office, and it may be more specific than that. I'm not sure. But I know that the Chancellor's office has a team that is comprised of people from the campuses, people from the Chancellor's office, experts with,
yeah, well, I'm sorry to catch you off guard with the question, by the way. I
Okay.
wasn't trying to do that. But maybe if you could, just to understand that, because maybe it's tied to grants or something. I'm just interested in that from a policy perspective. Yeah.
It's a repackaging of the prior assortment of 4 different separate funding sources that were bundled under the Student Equity and Achievement Act back in 2018. And so those specific metrics, the Basic Skills Initiative, the prior Student Equity Initiative, each had very specific metrics that the Chancellor's office was seeking.
Right, yeah.
And so this was just a repackaging. It was a way for them to say, rather than focusing in these 3 or 4, I think it was 3 or 4 distinct grant allocations, they'll bundle all of the resources, remove the restrictions that were applied to each individual funding source, and then give institutions more latitude in how they could work across purposes to achieve some of these core metrics. So the metrics themselves have been around for quite some time. They just existed with a prior funding source or a prior allocation through the legislature going back to, the early 2000s, essentially. Right. These things have been, and I think that's the piece that Dr. Munsami is going to get to, right? The refocusing and the pivoting of Vision 2030, and how this iteration of the Student Equity Plan aligns with that Chancellor's Office initiative for very specific outcomes.
Thanks, Dr. Powell. I thought that what you were asking, Trustee Dodd, was whether the guidelines for the SEP were coming, whether there was legislative input into the guidelines that came from the Chancellor's office. So,
Oh, no, you have to, origin related.
yeah.
That's what
Okay,
they-
great.
yep.
Thank you. Okay, so next slide, please, Armando. So in addition to the 5 metrics that I mentioned earlier, there was attention to Vision 2030 goals and outcomes. So the Student Equity Plan is designed to have institutions really think very strategically about how the student equity plan aligns with the Vision 2030 goals. So there are three major goals for Vision 2030. There's equity and access, equity and success, and equity and support. So equity and access is really having us think about how we're increasing the number of students that can access higher education. Equity and success is thinking about completion outcomes, professional educational goal outcomes. For example, what students identify as their goal, whether it's to transfer, to receive a baccalaureate degree, etc. Another equity and success outcome relates to workforce outcomes. So to what extent are we creating a pipeline for education that will give students access to jobs that are paying a living wage? So that's another equity and success area. And then thirdly, equity and support. So maximizing financial aid and reducing units to completion so that students can get to achieving their goals more quickly and transition to a stage where they're making a living wage. Next slide, please. So part of coordinating the student equity plan with the Vision 2030 alignment is focused attention to these areas of Vision 2030 alignment. So guided pathways, financial aid, students with disabilities, EOPS and CalWORKs, next up in foster youth, veterans, justice involved and justice impacted students, low income adults, credit for prior learning, dual enrollment, strong workforce programs in Perkins. So these Vision 2030 program areas are actually aligned with another area that we are being asked to shift the way that we're reporting, and that's through vision aligned reporting. So the student equity plan now is aligning also with that vision aligned reporting structure. And so there's a lot of really important and good alignment that is helping us to think very holistically about equity issues for our students and looking at it from multiple different areas of support. Next slide, please. So for every student equity plan where we identify which students, we look at the data and see which students are experiencing disproportionate impact, compared to the population as a whole, the student population as a whole. So in the past, we would look at our data and determine which populations we were going to identify for targeting for our student equity plans. This year, what was different is that the Chancellor's Office actually populated our student equity plan using data that had been submitted by the colleges to the Chancellor's Office. And so our disproportionately impacted data is identified in the student equity plan. Males showed up as a DI population in every metric of the 5 metrics. Hispanic students showed up in 3 of our metrics, first generation students in 2 metrics, economically disadvantaged students in 1 metric, and then white students in 2 metrics as well. Our Department of Research Planning and Institutional Effectiveness also looked at the data. They further disaggregated and found that we also have 3 areas in which there are other student populations that are disproportionately impacted. And so that's DSPS male and DSPS female students. So we actually added those populations to the populations that the Chancellor's Office had already populated into the student equity plan. Another area in which we're looking at disproportionate impact is in relation to comprehensive student educational plans. This is new in the student equity plan. So the equity plan is asking us to identify what our numbers are in terms of how many students receive a comprehensive educational plan at the end of their first semester or at the end of 30 units. So we've got that data. We've identified which are DI populations that are in need of attention with regard to comprehensive student educational plans. And then finally, the SEP is including strategies for serving the overall student population as well as disproportionately impacted populations. So this is also something new that is added to this particular iteration of the student equity plan. Next slide, please. So just an overview of the priorities and alignments that you will see in our student equity plan. So we are continuing to pay attention to the disproportionately impacted populations from the 2022 through 2025 SEP. And we're doing that in order to avoid prematurely excluding populations with a history of marginalization and disproportionate impact. So to remind you, the DI populations that we targeted for our last student equity plan are African American and Black students, and then also American Indian and Alaska Native students. So what we've embedded into the student equity plan is to, on an annual basis, look at their performance data to make sure that they're not falling back into a disproportionately impacted status. That's with African American males over African American and Black students. The American Indian Alaska Native population, the numbers were such that they were suppressed because the numbers weren't enough. And so we don't actually know what that data is indicated. So we're going to be continuing to pay attention to our support for that population as well. Other priorities are reducing time to completion of our professional goals, of students' professional goals, reducing the number of units taken, addressing campus climate, expanding support for culturally inclusive spaces, operationalizing an equity framework, which is under development right now. We're finalizing that this semester. And then alignment with the educational master plan, the strategic enrollment management plan, the technology master plan, and also Dr. Powell's strategic priorities that he's indicated, some of which are the 15 to finish priority, infrastructure improvements, including IT. So those are embedded in the student equity plan as well. Next slide, please.
Can I ask,
Yes.
the one of the bullets on there was reducing the number of units taken. Does that mean to like just trying to get students to focus on classes that they need to take rather than taking like electives and things? Because that doesn't sound like.
To receive a transfer degree, our students, ideally, they would be able to achieve that within 3 years or so. But it's actually taking our students much longer to achieve that. And part of the reason why is because they're taking more courses that they need to take for their goal, whatever their major is, their transfer goal, etc. So that is referring to, better counseling, the educational comprehensive educational plan for the students will help students also to identify which are the courses that they really need. So greater counseling to help them to focus to take the courses that they need rather than taking courses that they may think they need, but which actually they don't need, avoiding duplication, etc. So we are a Hispanic serving institution. We're also an Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution. And so although the federal government has cut funding to support HSI and NVC institutions, we feel that it's important to continue to recognize our status that status visible, to continue concentrated efforts to support those populations. And so that's built into the student equity plan, as well as activities to support African American and Black students, which will contribute to our eligibility for status as a Black serving institution. And this is a new minority serving institution status that is established within California. And we don't quite have the population to qualify for that status as yet, but part of also qualifying for that status is showing that you're serving that student population. So our work to serve that student population will help us to be eligible when our numbers meet the requirements. Next slide, please. So the student equity plan also has guidance from the Chancellor's Office on developing race-conscious student equity plans. And so we took guidance from this report, Empowering Lessons from CEPI for Designing and Implementing Race-Conscious 2025-2028 Student Equity Plans. And so also embedded in our student equity plan is making symbolic equity commitments visible, committing material resources to equity, and empowering equity leaders to have greater autonomy over student equity and achievement program funds, incorporating annual data review to document progress, strengthening relational commitments, both within NVC, so working across silos, and then between NVC and the wider community. So we've aligned our student equity plan, as you can see, with many of our strategic plans, with Dr. Powell's priorities. We've incorporated guidance from the Chancellor's Office and from this resource from the Community College Higher Education Access Leadership Equity Scholarship. So where we're at right now is what you have is a draft of the student equity plan. We're waiting to receive input from the constituent senates. And so once we get that feedback, that will also inform the finalization of the student equity plan. And I will be back in November to share with you the final draft of it. So are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. If I'm an African American male or Native American male, say living outside of England, and I start to fall through the cracks, what's going to happen? Somebody's going to catch it, and what are they going to do? Can you explain that? And is that if somebody attends classes at the St. Helena campus, are they just as supported as they are at this campus?
So we've got different programs that are targeted to providing support for groups that have been historically marginalized. So we've got learning communities. We also have Starfish, which is an early alert system.
But is somebody going to find me, and how are they going to help me? What are they going to do?
So for example, our Umoja learning community is already a learning community that we have at the campus that is providing targeted support for African American students and other students that wish to participate in the Umoja. We also have been conditionally approved for establishing a charter of the Amend program at Napa Valley College. This is conditional approval because when the Amend program was first established, they requested 50 charters from the Chancellor's Office. And so it was set up to have 50 campus charters, and they've already reached that number. So we're number 51. So the Amend program has reached out to the Chancellor's Office to ask for that ceiling to be lifted. But the Amend program is a program that is specifically to target African American males and provide support for them. The program, like any of our learning communities, any of our programs, is open to any population that wishes to participate, but it specifically addresses the unique barriers and challenges facing that population and creates community, creates network, has mentorship, tracks the students and their progress, not only while they're at the community college, but even continues to track their progress when they transfer to a four-year institution and even maybe to graduate school. So these are some of the mechanisms.
I think my question is it on the student to reach out to these communities, or is somebody in these communities, is a light going on somewhere when a student is not getting good grades and Dr. Madison's going to reach out and say, hey, this student needs help?
Trustee Kitchener, there's a very proactive effort by our Umoja learning community to identify all students who self-identify as African American and have invasive outreach to essentially pull them in. I'd say the same thing occurs for all of our learning communities where we have students that are part of affinity groups or specific cultural identities. There's a lot of outreach efforts. Students don't always avail themselves of these resources. It doesn't stop us from trying. The majority of our students actually are on campus. I think in that scenario that you'd be concerned with, it would be potentially an online student or a part-time student. We continue to think of creative ways to innovate, to be more invasive. Dr. Musami mentioned starfish is one of those metrics, ways that we can kind of drip on students to pull them in. But I am very proud of the work of Dr. Smith and what he's been able to do with pulling the Amend Charter, because that organization comes with a number of kind of canned resources and support statewide that are really going to help maximize our potential to be more invasive and pull those students in for their continued success.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you. I wasn't trying to give you a hard time.
No, I believe you. I believe you. I welcome the questions. And I would just like to add also that I mentioned the last time I did a presentation to you that we have affinity groups for staff at the college. So we have a Pan-African collective, which is the affinity group for that, centers the African descended experience of peoples in the Americas. And so part of the work of affinity groups is also to create opportunities for programming with students as well, and to be a resource for students. So that's another resource that we have at the college.
Thank you so much, Dr. Musami. Great work.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're now moving on to action item 13.2, California Community College Chancellor's Office Annual Financial 2024, 2025 and Budget 2025, 2026, 311 report. Vice President Reeves.
Thank you, President Olson. This is our annual report to the Chancellor's Office, where we report. It is really a very disaggregated report on all of our sources of revenues and all of the sources of expenditures down to the activity level. So this report will share with you, for example, how much we're committing to the performing arts and to English and to business services, et cetera. This is 50 pages, so if you'll bear with me, I'll go through them one at a time. No, not really. But I would call your attention to page 4. This is our annual report for how well we did in the 50% law. Armando, page 4 there, very good. The good news is since 2021, when we were at 41.97%, we've made steady progress, except for 1 year. We had a slight drawback. We're now at 47.13%. The law, the 50% law asks us to be at 50%, and just a little primer. I think Trustee DeLuna is familiar with this as well. The primer is that the 50% law calls for us to spend not less than 50% of our revenues for instructional salaries and related benefits. And while we have made good progress there, we're not quite there. There's a couple of reasons why we aren't a little further along. Recall that while we had committed resources to salaries last year, we didn't award those salaries. So those funds were uncommitted, and the faculty salaries are a slightly larger portion than other salaries on that schedule. We did do some adjustments that caught us up, and I'll point those out in our monthly report, that caught us up in some measure over $1 million. And I will just refresh our memory. We did participate in the 50% law audit conducted late last spring. in which we are one of 10 institutions that participated in it. It highlighted a lot of challenges with the 50% law, and I think we were a valuable contributor to that report, and it now sits with the Board of Governors to determine whether they want to change that or alter it in some way. So I would thank my colleagues around this table and our team in business services for putting that appeal together, if you will, that case together that says the 50% law established in the early 1960s doesn't apply completely to today. That said, I won't spend a lot more time on this, but I would, if you're interested in how much money we're spending in a particular area, you can look at those activity codes. Page 33, we look at fund balances there. I will share with you that this is in a different form will be replicated in terms of our annual audit of financial statements. There's a little more detail in that. And so with that, I would welcome any particular questions about this annual report to the Chancellor's Office and would therefore conclude my report.
Motion to approve to submit this to the Chancellor's Office, the 311 report.
I do have a quick question. I'm just curious, so the 50% law, we came in shorter than anticipated because of money that was not expended. That money is going to get expended this year, assuming we close contract. Is that, and we're going to be spending more than we normally would. Does that mean we're going to be falsely inflated for the next year?
Could you, Trustee Baker, what was the last sentence? I didn't quite catch that.
Are we going to be falsely inflated? Are the numbers going to be inflated next year when we do this report because we'd be paying basically 2 years?
Well, where we're falsely inflated now is in the reserve number because those dollars weren't spent. They flew to what I would say is an artificially inflated reserve number. However, we have the set aside is what we anticipate our expenditures will be in each of these years. So I don't anticipate that will be artificially inflated once they play out into this year.
All right, is there public comment? Okay, Trustee Dodd made a motion, Trustee Iverson seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Information item 13.3, annual notification of student right to know. Clary report. Vice President Reeves.
Thank you, Trustee Olson. I'd like to call my colleague, Chief Amber Wade, who wrestles this data to the ground and can report to the board. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. It's not great with data, so this is the only data that I wrestle. I'll be honest with that. So I'm going to start off with just our Clery report, and we'll get into some more stuff as we go along. Most of you know what Clery is. It's federal regulation that all schools have to do. It is a long report, and it has all kinds of data in there. It has our crime prevention, our crime procedures and processes that we go through, and resources. So it's a very long document. It's released. It has to be released prior to October 1st. We released ours last month pretty early. We send it out in our emergency alert to make sure people get it. It's posted on our website as well. And if anyone wants a hard copy, they can just come into the office and get a hard copy of that. So I want to highlight our crime statistics. That's usually what people want to know is the numbers. And so if you go to our report, it's towards the back. Just a couple of things. I will start with the bad news. We did have, and this is something that we've never had before, 3 vandalisms involving racist graffiti. So that was something that was a bit of a surprise to us. Like I said, we hadn't dealt with something like that. Sadly, vandalisms are difficult to solve unless you have a witness or have it on video. It's very difficult. So we decided that as a campus, we need to revamp our, it was priorly called BERT, our Bias Incident Response Team. We've since renamed it to our Bias Education Response Team. Dr. Munsami and myself really started to get into it and start building that program again. And we were very lucky that we had a new Title IX Civil Rights Coordinator coming on board that took the helm and is actually in control of that. Really, the work that we've done there has been on the education and awareness side. So getting out there, we've seen some good results. We meet once a month and then we provide a report to Dr. Powell on our recommendations moving forward. I think all of you know it's an approach that we need to take across the whole campus. So it's not just the people that are part of BERT, it's the education, it's presenting at Flex Day to get faculty on board. We want people to report because we want people to feel safe here on campus. And so they need to feel safe to report incidents that happen and then also know what to do if this does happen, along with trying to prevent it from happening. Moving on to some more positive news with our statistics. So we go back. Okay. So we all know we implemented housing on campus. And so you would expect our numbers to do a pretty big increase, but I would say we're pretty lucky with the numbers that we have posted up there. So that includes 1 semester of River Trail Village being open. That keeps things, as you know, housing would increase your numbers, but we did a great job preparing for this. We had a lot of programs involved, and I would say we were a little bit lucky as well. So it helps starting with low numbers. But if you see, the only increase that we had up there was a dating violence incident that happened at River Trail Village. And that was the only dating violence incident that happened on campus. So that's a great start. That's a great start to River Trail Village. But I will warn you, okay, we've had an increase in a population over there. It's been open. So our next statistics, you're going to see an increase in our numbers. We are working a lot right now. I'm working with Dr. Guerrero and VP Alberon to help Asset Living, who's managing our River Trail Village. And so there's a lot of work going on with education, prevention, and some of the rules and regulations and processes over there. So it's been a learning curve for all of us, but we're all pitching in to make things happen. I would say another thing to take note on statistics is we had 15 vandalisms that happened back in 2023. If y'all were here last year when I presented, that was a lot of our basic needs center that we had people breaking into our basic needs center. We since have done quite a bit of prevention down there to include cameras, better locks, and a lot of patrol. We had an idea of the individual that might have been responsible for it, and that individual has since moved on. So that's another part that would affect our numbers. So we dropped those numbers back to zero vandalisms for last year. So that's a very positive thing. I also think it's helped that we've expanded our patrol a little bit as well. Any questions about our Clery statistics? Yeah. So we do have some cameras on campus. We've had them for quite some time. Most of them are interior areas, but we don't have a lot of exterior. So we have been in the process of trying to get it approved, and moving forward, we need to replace those cameras based on federal regulations. So we are hoping to replace those and eventually extend to have some exterior cameras down the main corridors down campus, and then eventually, I would love to have them in the parking lots, because that's probably the #1 question we get is, do you have cameras in your parking lots? But so we haven't had any increase in our surveillance over the past few years. And then we're also working to, when River Trail Village was built, there are cameras up at River Trail Village. And so we're working to try and get access to those within our police department. Right now, we have to go to the management company and view footage there. Any other questions about the clearing? No. There were 2 additions to our Clery report because we have on-campus housing now. The first one being missing persons. So we need to have our policies and procedures in there for missing persons. That I went ahead and did last year because I thought that was essential information that our students and our residents need to know. So that was included last year. This year is our fire report. So this will, if you go to the end of our Clery report, we have a separate fire report, but it gets released with Clery. There's all the information that you need to know. That's all what's in the report. The location of the fire log, which is managed by the management company at River Trail Village and is accessible to anyone that walks through the door. There's all of our fire safety equipment, the training that we do, fire reporting, so what to do if there is a fire. And then we are mandated to do fire drills. So I believe they have one coming up. They're supposed to do one today, but they pushed it back. And then there's the disclosure of our fire statistics. No fires, so that was a good thing. No fires to report up there. Hopefully that will continue. And then last on that is future improvements. So things that we can do for fire safety. We have implemented an emergency alerting up there at River Trail Village. So it's similar to our NVC Safe system that we have on campus, but it's for River Trail Village residents. So any of them that are in students are already a part of our NVC Safe, but this is one just targeted for our residents, for anyone up there that's maybe not a student. And then that would also give us the ability to send out messages specifically for housing. Next slide, please. We've had some updates within our department. You'll notice a lot of new faces. Thank goodness, because it's been a struggle for the past couple of years. A lot of overtime. We lost a couple officers. We had one out on maternity leave, and for a while I thought it was just going to be me and Sarge covering the campus 7 days a week. But we were lucky enough to get a lateral officer, and then we've hired 2 additional that are in training. So both of those went through the academy. They're in field training right now. And recently we just hired a new trainee that will start the academy in January. We also replaced 2 of our campus service officers. Like I said, it was a process. We've been trying to do this for at least 3 years now, and the wait has been worth it. We have been very lucky to have some great staff come in, and I have been getting compliments from them left and right. So it's just a good feeling to anywhere I go, like, oh, Officer Roman helped us with this, or CSO Solano was so great. And so it's like I said, we had a couple tough years, but it was worth the wait. And we weren't willing to settle. We really weren't willing to settle with this environment we have on campus and the reputation that we have and the expectations from the campus. It's essential that we have people that really fit that. So. I think actually it was kind of perfect that Dr. Munsami was here. And she talked about the holistic approach. And so I want to take some time to focus on thanking and recognizing our partners on campus, because the way we police is true community policing, and that's something we can't do alone. We've had such buy-in from our staff on campus. They call us, they report things. We're constantly doing trainings back and forth. We recognize the resources we have on campus that can train us, and then we can train them as well, especially on safety aspects. But I really want to focus on grounds. So our grounds, all of our grounds people that are out there have been amazing. We submit work orders all the time about overgrowth, and we have a walkway that goes from parking lot A up to River Trail Village. We've done the best we can with our lighting, but it's essential that we keep all of the pathways trimmed back, right? Trees trimmed up, bushes trimmed down. And anytime we submit a work order, they go above and beyond. So they've been working hard out there. And plus, I have to give a little shout out to Scott, because he got a dead possum from under our building. So I really appreciate that. But we have a lot of critters out there. So our grounds team has been amazing. All the facilities, whenever we report something, they're on it right away. Title IX and civil rights and BERT and student code of conduct, those 3 have been great partners for us. We have a lot that have come out, things that aren't maybe crimes or things that we can't prosecute. And we have great resources on this campus to help with those. And then the care team, we kind of look at them as air traffic control. So like Trustee Kitchenough, you talked about if we had a student that might be falling through the cracks. If we get something like that reported, our number one thing is to be like, okay, how can we take our resources on this campus to build that person up? And we're small enough to know, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call so-and-so, and then they can call so-and-so. And so get these people the help that they need. And it's that holistic approach. We get things all the time that this isn't criminal, but how can we help this person? And so it really is, it takes a village, and our department, and I think the college in general, we're lucky to have the resources on this campus that we do. And then we do have some individuals on our campus that aren't students. So we are in close contact with all of our community partners. We do a lot of work with news. We do a lot of work with our DA's victim services and various other groups that are out in our community. That's all I've got for you all. Do you have any questions?
I think today was the great shakeout or something. Did you do an earthquake drill at all?
Not only did we do a full evacuation of campus, we had cabinet has been amazing. They're part of our emergency management team, and we got them in the room for a couple hours and did a tabletop exercise. So yeah, so we put them through the ringer. So if they seem a little tired along with myself, it's because of that. But it's the first full campus evacuation we've done in a long time, and it was a huge success. So, and no complaints, knock on wood. I haven't got any complaints from faculty or anyone. So it was a good thing. And yes, so we did participate.
Chief, I'll just say you made earthquakes fun today. Thank you. It was a fun exercise.
It was a success. I was very proud of us. So yeah.
I really appreciate the community approach you're taking and the scrutiny and hiring that you talked about.
Yeah, it's important. And the community approach makes our job easier. So to me, it's the only way to do law enforcement. All right.
Chief
Thank
Wade,
you.
thank you. We're fortunate to have you and your team here. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you all.
Thanks so much, Chief Wade. All right, moving on to information item 13.4, 2025-2026 unrestricted general fund 11, revenues and expenditures budget update.
Thank you.
Vice President Reeves.
Sorry. Thank you again, President Olson. This is the monthly report. Again, the quick review of this is the right-hand column. Starting with revenues, you'll notice we're 4% here. I never miss an opportunity to look at property tax at 0 so far and remind us that because we're a community-based district, our initial tranche of property tax doesn't arrive until December, and our cash flow requirements require us obviously to have money to pay our bills, et cetera. So that reserve level of 16.67% is probably more critical for an institution like us than it is for an apportioned district. So one person's opinion, that would be mine, is that that reserve needs to be higher than 16.67. However, I did want to raise a point because I have a microphone and remind us that that's the case here at Napa Valley College. You'll notice that our total salaries are only 20%. We're through the first quarter, 25%. We're under spending that to our budget of about $1.7 million thus far. Our benefits are also under expended at $661,000, and that, as you well know, and I've reminded us that that's because we haven't spent the money that we've allocated for salaries and benefits this year. Our total books and supplies, our total number, we're on target at around 18%. Our total operating expenses are at about 24%, so we're 1% below, generally below this point, this first quarter of the year. So our total expenditures are 20% of budget. So I think we're trending in a very positive direction. I would just acknowledge that you will likely see a few adjusted budgets moving through the year as you review and possibly approve the CBAs, because those will be reflected as budget augmentations, if you will, or budget shifts, and they will be of a material basis. So I don't see this big changes in our bottom line here, but we'll have to present to you some budget adjustments to reflect our activity, the activity related to expending those salaries and benefits. So that would conclude my report, unless Trustee Baker has a question.
Rentals. What's going on there? You're at 50% already.
What line is that, Trustee Baker?
Second to last under operating.
I see, 45. We're at 50% of budget. It looks like we are 157,000 based as compared to the previous 3 months, last year, the first 3 months. I would say it looks like we had some prepayments there early on. We're only at 50%. 50% is not 25%. But I'd be happy to take a closer look at that and see if the variance will haunt us the rest of the year. Say again, I'm sorry.
If it's like one-time things that just got paid at the beginning of the year or something.
That's usually how this plays out. Early on expenses are reflected as high, and then you don't have the expense the rest of the year. But I'll provide some additional detail.
Okay, moving on to information item 13.5, Board of Trustees report schedule. Vice President Reeves.
Yes, this is the report. It's a summary of all of the reports and information we provide to the Board of Trustees. I believe this is just an information item, but I just wanted to share this. We share it on an annual basis so you can, so we're very transparent about what we want to bring to the board and what you should expect from the district in terms of reporting. So unless there are specific pieces here you'd like to look at, I'd be happy to go over those. They're largely reports provided by the Chancellor's Office, our non-resident tuition fee, et cetera. It just articulates what you can expect to see each month of the year.
Is there somewhere we could put this where it's easily accessible? Like if we ever wanted to look, if I ever wanted to look back and see when we'd be getting this report?
Yes, let me confer with Armando and see how we can make that publicly available to you or semi-publicly available to you.
Okay.
Is there a way to just put it into board docs somewhere or where we can just
Yeah.
reference it as we needed? Oh, okay. Well, just wondering if there's a way where it's not where we don't have to remember what month it was. We could, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
That's super easy and I can work.
great, thanks.
All right, information item 13.6, completion of wine education complex phase 1.
Thank you. And finally, this is a ministerial report, if you were, to indicate that we have completed phase 1 of the Wine Education Center. And this is by essentially declaring it as substantially complete, the warranties begin, and we've effectively said, well, this is acceptable for occupancy and use. It isn't finally completed. There's still a few punch list items. However, this essentially says we are substantially complete and effectively we can use the building. So again, it's a ministerial item on the board for your review and information.
Okay, item 14.1, CCLC legal update, first reading. Armando?
Not using the microphone, but for this item, the all of our constituents we've signed.
Thanks very much. President and board reports, standing committee and other appointment reports. Trustee DeLuna, do you have a report?
This for the CCC?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we met a couple weeks ago and we really had a lot of trainings and updates, especially regarding the budget and other legislative actions that are upcoming, but no actions really were taken. It was more of our informational kind of organizational meeting. We'll be having the elections in, what month is it now? The elections for the executive committee coming up. And so we'll be getting more information on that.
Thank you. We look forward to you sharing that with us when time comes. Thanks. Let's see, we're moving down to DOF. Trustee Iverson, have you guys met? Why, you want to get out of here at 6:40 like you I promised you? Okay, all right. Trustee Rios, DWF. Trustee Dodd, Foundation, board report.
One report is that we are having our retreat, our board retreat, in the early first week of November. So I'll have even more to report at the next board meeting. That's my report about
Thank you.
a future report.
Future.
You can't cut me off, Trustee Olson.
All right. Are there any requests for future agenda items? Then let's move to trustee and board chair reports. Student trustee Dizon.
Hi, hello, I get to speak today. My report includes, very honestly, a big sigh of relief. I think any of my student peers around me can attest to the nerves that I had surrounding our meeting today. I want to communicate that it has actually very honestly been pretty daunting figuring out how to navigate the tension that our campus has been teetering as student trustee. I want to express that, I have an incredible relationship with and, I am supportive of our unions. And I have nothing but good things to say about those who have helped guide me and inspire me during my academic journey. And at the same time, I have had the honor and the privilege of being able to experience leadership from, the slight insights that I get from the administrative perspective, where I can feel and I can see how, all of your leadership helps, seeks to pave ways forward. I am relieved to hear how things are moving forward now. And I hope to not only lean on you all for guidance, but also making strides of impact across our community, going forward about this. Wanting to make sure that I stay genuine and not feel hypocritical depending on whatever is happening on our campus. Aside from that, we are welcoming in a new cohort for the Kaiser Medical Scholars Pathway Program. I think somewhere between 14 to 16 students are beginning their academic journey and experiences towards pursuing healthcare and medicine, where we get direct guidance from a doctor who works at Kaiser, Dr. Gonzalez, to guide them on community-based research and leadership. Some of my most valuable experiences here from this campus have stemmed from this program, so I'm elated to see it continue to grow in participation every year that I'm here. We're also preparing for the UC Davis Pre-Health Conference happening this Saturday. The Mesa STEM Center and DOCC will be bringing 25 students to the conference this Saturday, which is an over 10 student increase from what we had last year, over last year. Also this coming Saturday, so I have the conference and then I come back here for another event where the Filipino Club on campus, Kaibigan Club, is hosting an event called KNF or Kaibigan and Fam. It is that student art showcase that I mentioned last month. There's going to be volleyball, field day, as well as an outdoor movie hosted by the club. There'll be vendors, and it's again a continuous celebration for Filipino American History Month in October. If you're available, please come. I'm working on a workshop proposal for a conference next year for a conference called APACI, where it is Asians and Pacific Americans in higher education. I was really inspired by one of the club presidents last year. She had presented a workshop on behalf of our campus there, and she thought that I would be a good workshop speaker. And so I'm looking to host a workshop and hopefully speak in front of, dozens of people for that. Hope I get accepted. Also, I'm working on college apps. So yeah, right. Yes, thank you. And then lastly, I presented late last month to our cabinet proposing a new student advocacy event that I'm calling Common Grounds. I'm arranging to have, various vice presidents and other administrative leadership on campus to come and be available for an informal monthly meeting for students to be able to come and chat with the leadership, ask questions, raise concerns, and give the student perspective. The goal was to have students be able to come with anything and everything that they want to ask about their student experience and their academic journey and be able to connect with the leadership who can help them initiate change. Long story short, I'm asking the cabinet to hold an office hour every month. So yeah, that will conclude my report.
Thanks so much, Trustee Deason. Trustee Dodd,
Nothing to report.
Trustee Iverson, Trustee Rios, Trustee Baker.
It's not a report, but I do have an announcement. The tickets are on sale for the Nutcracker. Napa Regional Dance Company will be performing the weekend before Christmas at the PAX. Get your tickets now.
Trustee Dillina, Trustee Kishinev.
No report.
I just wanted to share that last night I attended Dr. Powell's presentation, The Power of Stories, hosted by PTK Honor Society, and it was a very moving and powerful presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time to share about your experiences in Ghana. It was wonderful. And that is all we have. So our next regular meeting will be on November 20th. This meeting is now adjourned at 6:44.